pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Today is Tuesday, June 15, 2021, 6 o'clock p.m. The meeting of the Water Board is called to order. This time, please silence all electronic devices. To comply with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the city requests that participants in this meeting complete a voluntary and anonymous survey that's available on the table in the back of the room. Donna, we get some roll call, please.
Robert Meyer.
Here.
Tony Higginbotham.
Here.
Ryan Maddox.
Here.
Frank Massey.
Here.
Brian Nobby.
Here.
Well, thank you. The board, you've all received a copy of your minutes. Anyone not get a copy of the minutes? Anybody see any corrections or additions that need to be made? No, sir. Frank is our meeting or minutes corrector, so Frank did very well. So, if not, they'll stand approved. Looks like we have no old business. Nothing on the agenda. New business. We'll move into HNTB. Barrett, Dave.
Evening. Just talk about a few things that happened last month here, and I do have substantial completion papers for you to sign tonight. Last month, basically the demolition of plants 2 and also Clearwell 2. If you be out there, I just talked to the guys this afternoon, and they got about half a day's worth tomorrow, and they'll be moving out as well. So they're hauling in topsoil for plant 2. So pretty much all the existing plants 1 and 2 no longer exist out the site. So they're kind of feeling great in that. A couple other things happened last month. Obviously, we prepared to subgrade for the new field operations building, which is in the location of old plant 1. We ran into a lot of material, some old abandoned pipes that took us a little longer, I think, than we anticipated, but we got all those out of the way now. So they have started placing concrete for the footers and the foundation walls. That'll probably run through the end of this week. I think they should finish that up as well. They've also been working on punch list. There's a punch list part of that substantial completion we'll talk about in a few minutes. They've already got probably half of those items already completed, so they are doing pretty good on that. The other big thing, one of the other things that happened last week, we moved the existing generator to the city hall location. With the efforts of the county and Ron and the mayor, it actually went, I thought, pretty smoothly, considering that we were moving. Ended up being a little less than we thought, about 30,000 pounds, but it went pretty well. So they guys did what they were doing. They had 4 marks. You had 4 marks on the concrete, and I think they were off by 1/4 inch, maybe. Yeah, it's pretty close. Close enough. You gotta be one, right? So that got accomplished last week. They also installing the last bit of storm sewers, which basically takes it across Ireland to the field ops building area as well. Next couple weeks, they're looking to put the underground utilities like the electric conduits and the plumbing and the drains and stuff that's under the slab. That'll get in here this week and next week. The end of next week, tentatively, weather dependent, they're planning on pouring the concrete slab for the field ops building. That will probably be one of the last big concrete pours we have on the job. I think that's, I want to say it's around 60 yards or something like that. So it's probably the last big pour. And then after that, all the steel is here for the building. So the following week, probably the first week of July, they'll start the building erection, the steel for the building. I think they've got their schedule somewhere around between 4 and 6 weeks to get the building up and closed, and then they can start all the trades inside. So that's it's moving on their schedule. Kind of their schedule, they're still trying to hopefully finish things up toward the end of this year is the plan. That contractually they could go into next year, but I think their goal is trying to get it done this year, so it may be right between, my guess is gonna be between Thanksgiving and Christmas is when we're gonna finish things up. Obviously, they're going to try to do some of the work that's weather dependent, like and also the asphalt. They'll try to get that done sometime probably late October, would be my guess, that when the weather still cooperates for that. So, but let's see what else. Next month we'll probably come before you with another change order. Try and give you an idea of where we're at. Currently, we're at change order number 3. We've had some negative change orders, so we're only about $15,000 in extras at this time on a $20 million project. So we're in pretty good shape. I think pending what we have is about, that bumps up another to about $80,000, I think. So we're still well below what the industry standards, if there is such a thing. So probably for you next month as well. Any questions on where they're at and what they've accomplished?
Is that typical on the project that big from substantial to final, that many months?
Well, typically it's not, but we did this, we kind of have 2 substantial completion dates because we, obviously they couldn't take plant 1 down and start that work until the new plant was in operational. So they were they couldn't schedule any of that work, so we gave them 2 dates. One to be substantially complete, which they are for plant number 4 and associated work, and then there'll be a second substantial completion date for the remaining work, including Area 10 or the field office building and that. And typically, once you have that, on a typical project with one, it's roughly 30 to 60 days from substantial to final. So I believe we have, from the next substantial completion date in the contract, we have another 30 days to final. So yeah, that's what you typically see. But this one, we've kind of had 2 phases, so that's why we're in. So that's why we had this first substantial completion. Any other questions? We'll roll right into that substantial completion then. Again, this is for the plant number 4, the area 4. It also includes the rapid mix structure, solids contact clarifiers, the building for the clear well, the pump and electrical building, and some of the site work as well. So what remains then is some area 10, which is the field office building, and the rest of the site work as well. So it also has the bulk water station, which is in a location where the existing plant 2 is on the south side of 4th Street. So those are the things that still remain to be done. So this is for what we just said. What the dates was established as March 12th, which is when Rick started treating the water. So that's when we're getting beneficial use from the new facilities. It sets, basically that's when the warranty period starts from a contractual standpoint. Contractor again has roughly a year warranty on everything. There are some additional warranties on certain equipment that's extended beyond that, but everything's covered for a year from contractors. The other thing that we need to look into is insurance. We need to be the contractor's still carrying insurance on everything, but you ought to look to add your new facilities to your insurance policy. So I don't know if you talk to about
I've contacted Kevin Kreckler on that. I think he wants to come and sit down and actually go through it. So it's the ball's rolling.
Okay. And the other thing is a release of retainage. For those who don't know, that retainage basically, we've been holding roughly 5% of the first 50% of the project in retainage. Basically, contractors have done the work, you you should get paid. We hold back 5%, just as a way of making sure he continues to work, and he doesn't pull off the job or do something else. Or if for some reason something would happen that he decided he wasn't gonna work anymore, you would still have some money to kind of cover to get the work completed. So, but with the work being completed, he's entitled to that money back, so we're requesting a release of the total retainage that was currently being held is $999,350. They're requesting a release of $848,517, which means that you would still have a remaining retainage of $150,833. So that covers 5% of what still works completed, plus 200% of the change part of the punch list items. So we assign a value to the punch list items and double it basically. So it's actually I came up with it around 120. They just requested 150. So they were fine with that. So we got a little more coverage actually. So. Any questions?
Punch list item worth $2,000 of scheme thing.
No, the biggest things are typically, as you see, is some of the instrumentation controls still needs to be worked through. Some copying, a lot of painting items, a lot of cleaning, some few things like that. Some touch up, some gaskets needed, some of the doors needed adjusting. Copying, recoding, startup papers that still need to be submitted. And they still got to install the office furniture once it arrives. There's some rattles and some of that ductwork. So there's nothing major, just a lot of minor things. The biggest item I think on it was the INC, so we were still holding $50,000 from the INC. And they have made progress since then, so. Any other questions? Not, I would request that you make a motion to approve this advance.
Would like to make a motion to accept the certificate of substantial completion.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, motion on the floor.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Accept that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Darren.
We'll have some more pictures next month. There just wasn't a whole lot to take pictures of, didn't we, the existing plans, so. Then hopefully next month we'll have some pictures of the new building going up and other things. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Darren.
Kind of need to drive around there every few days and see what's been going on, especially with the old stuff coming down. Kind of need to get driven by there lately, so. Yeah, very neat. All right. Rate study, Greensburg Water Company rate study. Donnie, you want to talk about that?
Yes, you should have received a contract from Reach Financial Group in your packet. It is to do a rate study. We typically try to do that every 3 years. It works off of our rolling capital improvement plan. Our last rate study was completed in 2019, which was for the water plant. We've had increases over the last 3 years, small increases. So their fixed rate cost is $5,500. If it goes up and beyond that, they will have to come back before the board with a new proposal. Does anybody have any questions?
I do have a question. In the past, I know in the rate studies, we've seen kind of what other municipalities are charging for the water. I think it's good information because we always look pretty good for our customers in that study. So I don't know if that's included.
That will be. They will have comparisons with areas our size. Yes.
I think that's important to them. Anytime we pass these rate increases along to the customer, we like to show them that you're doing pretty good here.
That's right.
So.
Fiscally responsible.
fiscally responsible, right, thank you for doing that.
Absolutely.
So you have in front of you a proposal for a rate study, Green Financial.
And the mayor will be the one that signs this. We're giving him permission to sign, basically.
Since Donna's the expert, does anyone have any questions for Donna on the rate studies? I'd like to do this every 3 years, and we're just about due for another one.
Pretty standard.
It's better to do it and stay on top of it instead of wait too long or get in trouble. But everything looks good as far as that goes, but we'll just keep our fiscal plan moving along.
Very good. Anyone on the board care to make a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion, we approve the rate study.
We have a motion on the floor, would there be a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. All right. All those in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? Motion carries. We'll accept the proposal for the Green Financial Group rate study. How long is that?
It said that it would take 4 weeks from the
Okay,
time,
that's pretty quick.
from the time of getting the information, so,
Couple months probably.
Yeah.
Very good.
thank you.
Rick, you're up.
Good evening. All I have is a quote on a bush hog tiller box. That's what we do all of our yard work with. The one we have now is no longer viable. Times are gone, it's busted up. We bought it in, I think, 97 or 98 from Stones back then, so. We bring it in town and run it behind the tractor. We'll wait till we get 10, 12, 15 yards to do, and we'll do it all at once, so. We're just looking for the approval to purchase that.
You have any questions for Rick? You got a quote in front of you? Anyone on the board care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion, we lay your tiller box.
Very good. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second.
Brian.
Brian, Bobby, second. All those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Rick, can you make this one last 24 years?
Rick's not gonna last 25 years. I guarantee that.
Well,
you're
we'll
young,
put the
Rick.
date on there somewhere, so we know.
Yeah, we can do
That's
that.
the date on there. We put that in the minutes. It's
Yeah.
just those last 24 years. There you go.
If
What
I'm
else
here
going on?
24 years,
What else going on, Rick?
I do have a couple things. One, I don't know that, the reservoir, I was up there today, and you can literally smell that reservoir water at the Honda Tower from the way the wind was blowing. So we're going on almost a year that we've had trouble, and it seems that it's just getting worse. Ponds are not my forte, so I don't know if I need to look in getting a professional in here to see what we have in that reservoir. Thank God for the new water plant, because we're treating, even with all that, the rain we had, the muddy water, we was treating that water just fine, with the new water plant. So it's not that we're pressing, but I've never had, an instance like this last as long as what it's lasted. And if something would happen, God forbid, that we would have to go back to that reservoir, the taste and odor problem is gonna start back all over, and we do not want that. So I don't know if you want me to try to find somebody. I know there's a Jones Fishery out of Ohio, that specializes in stuff like that. If you guys would know somebody, Frank, you build water towers and get near around a lot of utilities.
Mine's
So-
above that.
So I know, but I don't know if you
No,
like different reservoirs, or, you know, maybe I can contact Batesville and see if they've ever had any trouble with Morris Reservoir. But I think it's something we need to look at and get somebody in here and say, you know, this is what the problem is and this is a solution to fixing it. I don't know, but I think it's time that we do something.
You know, Darren, to put these,
Yeah,
build
I think-
any of these anywhere else that you
I
might
think
know
what
what
you
to
need to do is find out what specifically is certain algae bloom or what's causing the taste and odor. Then you'll know, then once you know what's causing it, you'll have a better idea how to attack that or fix that. So until you know exactly what it is, you know, there's a lot of different things out there, you know, aerators and chemicals that you can add to it. If you don't know exactly what algae bloom or what it is that's causing the taste and odor, you could spend a lot of money and not get the results.
And that's what I don't wanna do. I know here a month or two, I talked about, you know, a big aeration. I know Solar Bee, I talked to Darren about it. But I don't wanna spend $40,000 or $50,000 on it sometime and it don't fix it or it don't work. So I really wanna get somebody in here that can help us out
Maybe some of your peers would have a,
with that. So, yeah, I'll make some phone calls and hopefully have something for you, next month. Also, next month, I'm gonna try to, again, Frank, I'm picking on you. I think we need to have that south water tower inspected. It's time for that, inside and out, and maybe get a recommendation on what to do with that. I know we got the lead-based paint on the outside of that tower, so, I don't know if you got.
Leave it full?
Yeah, I think doesn't Phoenix have the remote?
No.
They don't? Do they dive it with the wetsuit? So it needs to be empty?
No, I can get, or I'll get you some recommendations. too.
Or we can empty it, cause we have 2 other towers, so it's
Yeah.
not, and I actually had an inserter valve put in so I could isolate that tower away from the system itself. We wasn't able to do that before, so we can isolate it and drain it. And we have the other tower, so we can, and it's probably better to do it empty anyways. They can do a little, I think they can do a little more thorough inspection on it, so.
And you can clean, make sure it's clean, and then do both. But yeah,
how
I'll get you-
often do we inspect those towers?
They recommend like every 5 years, so,
How long's it been
yeah.
for that tower?
Huh?
How long's it been for that tower?
Well, we had to, I think it was 2018 when IDM told us to paint it, so I had to hire somebody to come in and inspect. That was just the outside of it at that point, so, at that time.
Is it a grease line?
Used to be, we had the grease taken out and the inside of it's painted now. That was taken care of, back in 2000, I think, when we went through those upgrades, yeah. So I'll call you
Yeah,
tomorrow
I'll
and
get
get some
you,
numbers.
because if
and-
you're gonna, if it can be drained, then you can clean it, inspect it, clean it,
Right.
dirt in the bottom or whatever, is thorough too, so.
But I have looked at it a little more just here the last day or two. It was brought to my attention and there is some spots up there that, we needed to do something with it. Now, I don't know if with that lead-based paint, if it's cheaper to build a new tower somewhere.
It is.
That's kind of what I thought.
Let me see if that's the rest
How
over
old,
here.
how old is that tower?
54.
54.
54 is when it was built.
Still the same time the plant number one was built.
So I'll have, hopefully some numbers for you, next month and we'll get that inspected. And that's something that, it's gonna have to go in the capital improvement plan, so
Yes,
go
exactly.
from there.
You could isolate it, drain it, and it to be rechlorinated and test it again, and put it back online, but it's a little more thorough than, I mean, the dive is good.
Right.
But,
Yeah, draining is not an issue now, so.
okay.
Alright,
Very
thanks.
good, thank you, Rick. Anyone else like to be
Yeah.
heard by the board? Yes, Mr. Rob.
Good evening.
Oh,
I was just wanting to give you all a little bit of a heads up. The Indiana Department of Transportation is working on a couple of projects on Main Street. They are planning to reconstruct Main Street from South Michigan Avenue out to Base Road or the County Highway Garage, and also from Ireland Street back to the railroad. And obviously, we have water lines in both of those areas. The good news is the east end of town, we have a reasonable chance of getting not to pay for any reconstruction that might be needed. The bad news is, on the east end, we probably don't have near as good of an opportunity. West end, excuse me, thank you, Rick. The west end, we probably don't have near as good an opportunity to get them to pay for it. There is a section of water line in there that Rick and I have talked about from West Street to the railroad that likely needs to be replaced. And the time to do that would probably be during the reconstruction of Main Street. I think there's an opportunity to leave that water line on NDOT's right of way, but move it out from under the pavement. There's gonna be some new sidewalk out there, we might be able to place it under the sidewalk. A wild guess, way too early to be guessing, is $250,000 for the reconstruction of that chunk of water line. NDOT schedule is very unclear. They are in the middle of design right now. I think their money was scheduled for 24, but they have encountered some environmental documentation needs. And I think it's likely to slip a couple of years, so it could be as late as 26. But it's coming, and I just bring it to your attention so that you can know you'll be seeing that expenditure.
Tell me, you gonna be here then, Rick?
Well, if you were, I don't, Frank, Tony, and Rob, if you remember, we was planning on replacing that, a few years back, and I couldn't get the easement worked out, so this way we'll be on NDOT property.
Yeah, it's all through the west up there, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's a bad
planned for a
section.
bit, yes.
Yes.
You're talking from Ireland to West Street, is that what you're talking about?
We're talking from West Street to, we'll be on the west side of the railroad tracks. And it's sleeved underneath the railroad tracks, so, yes. We had to cut it open and fix it, repair it once we get the tracks. I think it's an 8 on the north side. We replaced it, Darren engineered it, and we replaced it just west of the railroad tracks all the way out, in front of, Delta, cut across and tied it in. If you remember when we did that. So that's all new, cause that was a bad area for us. We was out there 3 times a week from November till April, so.
Would you work, I mean, could we do it beside, working beside them, or would they have to?
No, it will be in their contract.
Oh, it's there?
Yeah. Yeah, we won't do that. We can't physically, we don't have the manpower to do that kind of job in a.
It's a lot better if you only have one contractor on a job. It just always works better. There are some potential savings here. The maintenance of traffic costs will be covered by their work. The restoration of pavement will be covered by their work. So now is likely to be the right time. We have been in discussions with NDOT's design consultants, and we have requested a proposal from them for doing the engineering work. That way they can coordinate it with everything else they're doing. We haven't received that. When we do, we'll probably be back chatting with you about that.
Okay. Very good, I think
How's
you're
that
on.
been working with all them contractors on your job there? How's that been on your job, working with all those different contractors?
Part of the job.
You have one general, right?
Yeah, one general, so yeah, that helps a lot with dealing with. I can tell the general to go talk to that guy.
Thank you for that, Ron.
You're welcome.
Donna's got something.
Yes, I
to
have a few
talk
things to talk about. Speaking of that, part of doing the rate study, we always update our capital improvement plan. And the nice colorful sheet that was just passed to you, Rick had put in his areas down at the bottom. And we had the West Main Street in there, like he said, for years. And I think we booked in 300,000. Weren't really sure what years to do. We had 20, 21, 22, and 23, but it all depends when all the NDOT stuff goes in, if we get that done with that project, it would be nice. But this is what will be turned into, reading financial, like to look at our capital plan and just review it if you have any questions about it. We can always change, add, or do whatever, and this is what they work from. Just a little bit of information. Another thing, well, number 2 was abandoned and approved last month. There is, on the asset ledger, $104,509.50 that will be taken off. So if you guys could sign that, I'll be moving that off of assets and removing it as an asset. Thank you very much. And then as far as civic software that was approved last month, we're going to be looking at getting that going in the last quarter of this year. Vacations, personnel changes, and everything else, we thought it would be better to wait till the last quarter instead of trying to get it done now. I think that's it.
All right. Very good, thank you. Anyone else have anything they'd like to bring forward tonight? Anyone on board? No? If not, thank you for your attendance tonight. We stand adjourned.